Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast, normally recorded in our studio at the Bishopbriggs Media Centre, currently recorded from our volunteers' homes. To keep in touch with us, use our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, which are all at Q and Review. That's CUEANDREVIEW. Or get in touch via information@qandreview.com. That's information@CUEANDREVIEW.com. Please like and share our podcasts and give us any constructive feedback.
Evening Times Sport, March 15. Celtic and Rangers fans fired "Don't be a dickhead" warning by Australian Sports Minister ahead of Sydney showdown. Report by Aidan Smith. New South Wales Sports Minister Stuart Ayres has fired a warning to Celtic and Rangers fans planning to attend the upcoming Sydney Super Cup clash in November. Both Glasgow clubs are signed up to the tournament that will take place while the World Cup is on in Qatar. The decision has been met with uproar from both sets of fans, but both clubs are yet to make a U-turn on their decisions. Speaking at a launch event for the competition, Ayres said, "It's not 1984, it's 2022, and we love passion, we love noise, but we want safe environments that people can come to. We've got a long runway, the event's in November. We'll do a lot of clear messaging around ticket sales and expectations of fan behaviour. Come along, have a great time, just don't be a dickhead. We are a well-experienced city when it comes to running large-scale major events. We'll engage with the clubs, we'll take advice from them around preparations." Rangers manager Giovanni van Bronckhorst respects the decision to play against Celtic in Australia was made in the club's best interests. A number of fans of both Glasgow clubs have reacted angrily to this week's news that they will compete against each other in the Sydney Super Cup in November. Some Rangers fans appear particularly agitated that the event has been billed in Australia as a homecoming for Celtic manager Ange Postecoglou. Fans group Club 1872, the sixth largest shareholder in Rangers, this week wrote to the club seeking an explanation for the decision and claimed alienating a significant portion of your supporter base cannot be seen as a sound commercial decision. When asked for his take on the decision ahead of Saturday's visit of Aberdeen, Van Bronckhorst said, "We know there's going to be a big gap during the World Cup, and I know the club is looking for friendly games, not only in that window, but also in the international windows we have. I think it's an opportunity for the club to go there and play for the fans who are based in Australia. And of course the club made the decision to go there because they do everything in the best interests of the club. For me, I just need to respect that decision and play a good couple of friendlies in Australia in November." Report by Aidan Smith. Evening Times Sport, March 15. Celtic and Rangers could meet 3 times in 1 month. Report by Aidan Smith. Celtic and Rangers could meet each other 3 times over the course of April after the pair were drawn against each other in the Scottish Cup semi-final. Glasgow's Big Two are already set to meet in the league on the 3rd of April at Ibrox, and they will now meet at Hampden on April 16th or 17th. The pair are then due to lock horns once more in the Premiership in the post-split fixtures. A date is yet to be set for that, but it will be likely one of the first 2 fixtures on either April 23 or April 30. Wedged in between these games Rangers could also have a Europa League quarter-final to contend with if they navigate their way past Red Star Belgrade on Thursday night. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's team currently lead 3-0 after the first leg, but they still have to get the job done in the return fixture this Thursday. Report by Aidan Smith. Evening Times Sport, March 15. Morelos lands Colombia call-up. Report by Aidan Smith. Alfredo Morelos has landed a Colombia international call-up for their upcoming World Cup qualifiers against Bolivia and Venezuela. The Rangers striker was involved in the last squad for his country, but he was not given the nod to be involved in matches against Argentina and Peru. This resulted in a nightmare trip for Morelos, who missed Rangers' Premiership clash against Celtic when Ange Postecoglou's side ran out 3-0 winners. Morelos will now face a quick turnaround to get back for Rangers' clash with Celtic on April 3. He will likely be involved against Venezuela on March 30 before having to fly back to Glasgow. On Morelos' snub last month, Van Bronckhorst said, "Obviously, you don't want to lose players in the season, but we have to respect the rules in the FIFA calendar. As a club, we cannot do anything. It is a pity for him and also for us as a club that he is not even in the squad. He has been 2 weeks away but not featured in the games. I don't know if he will be in the squad for the Argentina game. To not have him in the squad, and Morelos not having minutes with his country, it is very harsh, especially for Morelos himself." Report by Aidan Smith. Evening Times Sport, March 15. Morelos makes Rangers transfer statement as he is involved in agent switch. Report by Aidan Smith. Alfredo Morelos has opted to change his agent as he prepares to enter the final year of his Ibrox contract. The Colombian was with the World in Motion group, but he has now switched to Foot Feel and Echo Sports, who have some of the biggest names in Europe on their books. Inter Milan ace Lautaro Martinez, Roma's Borja Mayoral, and Achraf Hakimi are just 3 of their top names. Morelos is out of contract in 2023, and it remains to be seen whether he will make a big money move. The Rangers striker has never shied away from discussing a big money move away from Ibrox, and he has revealed that he would like to test himself in an elite European league. Despite this, he has also hailed the Ibrox fans for their support during his time at the club. He explained to a Colombian radio station, "Rangers fans are loyal fans who support us everywhere we play. That feeling of knowing fans travel to other countries far away from Glasgow is wonderful. I feel that unconditional support. They love me a lot. They cheer my name at every game, in every stadium. As a player, this motivates me to keep working, keep playing well, and to want to stay playing there for years to come." Report by Aidan Smith. Evening Times Sport, March 15. Postecoglou jokes Celtic have gone from trouble to treble. Report by Alison McConnell. Ange Postecoglou, the Celtic manager, joked that the Parkhead club have gone from trouble to treble as they set up a mouth-watering Scottish Cup semi-final against Rangers next month. It will be an intense period with at least 2 games against the Ibrox side in quick succession. Depending on the date of the 3rd game, following the split, it could be 3 within as many weeks. Said Postecoglou, At the start it was all trouble, now it is all treble. The important thing is that we are still in the competition, and at this stage of the season we have given ourselves an opportunity for success. That is the expectation here. That expectation is on me and everyone at the football club. The players need to embrace that. We cannot think just because we have won a trophy already that it is going to be a good season. We want to win every competition we are in and give ourselves a chance to do that. It is the first time that Celtic and Rangers have met in a Scottish Cup semi-final since 2018. There will be a different dynamic to the game, with both fans guaranteed a 50-50 split of tickets for Hampden, a deviation from the way that recent games have played out. He said, "We are in the semi-finals and we've got Rangers, so on we go. It will be massive. That was the prize on offer. To get through you've got a semi-final at Hampden, and irrespective of who you play, it's going to be a massive game. That's the reward for a really good performance. We are in it and that's the main thing. It's going to be great. It will be a cracking atmosphere. I have had 2 trips to Hampden, and in both those games the atmosphere was unbelievable. I am sure it will be a great atmosphere again for that semi-final. They are just games of football you need to win. The most important thing is that we're putting ourselves in a position where those games mean something. We focus on the next challenge and don't look too far ahead." Last night's goals from Callum McGregor and Georgios Giacomakis, his 9th of the season and his 8th since the turn of the year, eased Celtic through, with Postecoglou content with the intensity shown by his side. He said, "Georgios had to work hard. All the front three worked really hard. It wasn't a game where we were going to get a lot of chances. We were fighting the opposition for the ball because of the pitch. It wasn't going to be smooth, and it was hard to break them open at times. I thought we had to persevere, and I thought we did that. Georgios did that, got his goals, and worked really hard for the team." Cup football always has a bit of an edge to it, particularly away from home. I thought the atmosphere was great. I thought we controlled the game from start to finish. It was an 11th game away without defeat for Celtic. There have been 9 wins and 2 draws, following a previous run of form where they went 8 months without a win on the road. He said, "It's the main factor in our form. After a rocky start, our away form has been outstanding. We have been to Edinburgh 4 times, Aberdeen twice, Livingston. We've come here again, all tough away fixtures, and the boys have handled it really well. Away from home we're still controlling games and trying to be the team that takes it to the opposition. We don't take it for granted winning away. It's not easy away from home. Being able to handle that has probably been the most important part of the season. We're going okay, but the key thing now is to finish our stuff off." Report by Alison McConnell. Evening Times Sport, March 15. Rangers set-piece practice payoff is pleasing for Van Bronckhorst. Report by Ewan Payton. Rangers manager Giovanni Van Bronckhorst admits he is delighted to see his side's work on set pieces finally paying off. The Ibrox side made the most of 2 corners last Thursday, as both Alfredo Morelos and Leon Balogun found the net. They also showed that the additional set-piece practice was proving successful against Dundee in the Scottish Cup on Sunday, with Connor Goldson slamming home from close range. Rangers are on good form at the minute, But as well as obviously being happy with progress through to the Scottish Cup semi-finals, Van Bronckhorst was pleased with the aspect of his team's play. He said, "We have a lot of threats and a lot of good takers of set pieces. If the ball is delivered well, then we will always be a threat in those situations. That's why I am happy that 2 goals came from set pieces, one from a corner and one from a penalty. The third goal came from a turnover, and that was good." Overall, the Dutchman was very happy with what he saw from his side in the 3-0 victory in Dundee, thanks to goals from Goldson, James Tavernier and Sakala. Attentions now firmly turned to Thursday night's clash with Red Star Belgrade, with the Ibrox club preparing for a hostile trip to the Serbian capital. Van Bronckhorst added, "I am delighted with what the players gave me. It was a short period of time after Thursday, and we didn't have a lot of time to recover. We missed a few players as they weren't ready for the game. But we showed the depth we have in the squad, and I am very pleased with the result, but also with our attitude. We are going to Belgrade looking to get a good result. We are not thinking about the 3-goal lead we have. We have to go there from the first minute and make sure we get a good result. If we do that, then we will go through to the next round." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, March 16. Celtic pair called up by Japan, but Kyogo misses out. Report by David Irvin. Celtic pair Dazen Maeda and Ryo Hatate have been called up by Japan. The pair have been included in Hajime Moriyasu's squad for the World Cup qualifying double-header later this month. Japan take on Australia and Vietnam on March 24 and March 29 respectively, as they bid to qualify for the World Cup later this year. And while Hatate and Maeda have made the squad for the fixtures, injured Furuhashi has not been included. The Japanese international has been out of action since Boxing Day with a hamstring issue and is yet to return to competitive action. Yosuke Ideguchi is another Celtic Japan player who missed out on a call-up to represent his country despite his recent return. It is thought Maeda and Hatate will fly out to join the international squad after the match against Ross County on March 19, and following the qualifiers, they will make the trip back to Glasgow in time for the crucial Glasgow derby fixture against Rangers on April 3. Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, March 16. Aaron Hickey's Scotland commitment issues addressed by Steve Clarke. Report by Graham McGarry. Steve Clarke has brushed aside concerns about Aaron Hickey's commitment to Scotland after calling the Bologna fullback up to the full international squad for the first time. Scotland under-21 coach Scott Gemmell admitted that Hickey had previously turned down several call-ups to his squad, with his advisers understood to be unconvinced of the value of the experience for the 19-year-old. But Clarke has now handed him an opportunity at senior level, and it is one that he expects him to grab with both hands. Clarke said, "Everybody picks their own path. Not everybody gets to the A squad through the under-21s. Obviously, I have taken a chance to have a look at Aaron Hickey, who has had a fantastic season in Serie A with Bologna, playing week in and week out and doing very well. He's adaptable. I've seen him playing a couple of games off the right for Bologna, and he did okay. He can play off the left. In our group, he's obviously got competition. with Captain Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney in front of him. It gives me a chance to see Aaron up close in a training camp. That's the reason behind that one. I'll have a look at him in training, and then we'll decide as we go along whether he gets minutes on the pitch. But that's the same for a lot of players. It is 2 friendly matches, and I'm aware some players have been playing a lot for their clubs and wouldn't benefit from playing 2 90 minutes, so I'll be as fair as I can. But also the clubs and the managers have to realise I have to get something out of the 2 matches as well. Report by Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, March 16. Matt O'Reilly looks ahead to Rangers Cup semi-final. Report by Alison McConnell. It was perhaps fitting that on the day Matt O'Reilly, the Celtic midfielder, received a maiden call-up for the Danish under-21 squad, the country of his mother's birth, that he should show commendable coolness at the prospect of a mad month in which Celtic and Rangers could potentially square up 3 times. Historically, when the games are concertinaed into one another, there is a tendency for grievances to spill from one encounter to another, and that is before factoring in the 50-50 ticket split for the William Hill semi-final at Hampden, as the teams meet at the stage of the tournament for the first time since 2018. O'Reilly's introduction to the fixture came last month in a pulsating 3-0 win as Celtic swatted Rangers aside. It was an enjoyable first experience of the fixture, with O'Reilly and company lauded by a tickled home support who had feasted on one of the performances of the season from Ange Postecoglou's side. As the midfielder spoke of looking forward to the hostility that will be evident at Hampden, there is a feeling that he has not quite seen anything just yet. He said, "I am actually looking forward to that, having both sets of fans in the stadium. It will probably create an even better atmosphere, with a bit of hostility towards both teams. I enjoy it. That's what I buzz off. These are the games we are all buzzing to play in. It's really enjoyable. For myself, I just love playing in that atmosphere where it's bouncing. It makes you want to play better. It was spine-tingling last time. I spoke to a few people, and they said it was probably one of the craziest Celtic versus Rangers atmospheres that's been, which was pretty cool. I was grateful to be part of it. I don't think you understand how crazy it is unless you are in the stadium. It looks amazing on TV, but it's not until you are in there. My mum and dad were in the stadium and they were thinking, wow, this is crazy. It has to inspire you to want more. That's why we play football. The fans make it what it is." With a cheekbone that was fractured in 2 places and an eye that still sported the different hues of an ageing bruise, Callum McGregor donned a protective mask and declared himself fit for that win against Rangers last month. It was one of a number of captaincy statements that McGregor has made this season, some more subtle than others. There was the donning of formal collar and tie for last week's annual Celtic Foundation dinner, while his colleagues sported club tracksuits, and for O'Reilly, it was the quiet greeting when he first walked in the door. Given how Celtic's season is currently poised, it is McGregor who will be key to just where it goes from here. Said O'Reilly, "On my first day he welcomed me really nicely, so from that moment on I could see he was a proper man, a proper guy. He steps up every day in training. He always drives it, always demands the best from himself and everyone else. He's a proper captain. He does bring that assurance and calmness to the team, a real presence. He's been involved in so many games, so having him there is so important. There is a danger, of course, that as all eyes look to the expected drama of what April will bring, that focus slips on the here and now. Postecoglou is unlikely to indulge in such fancifulness, however, with O'Reilly maintaining that Celtic's attitude that has taken them on a 30-game unbeaten domestic run will not waver. He said, "Attitude is important. The manager has said our off-the-ball work rate will win us games, and we showed that the other night. We worked really hard as a team, and when we do that, we are a hard team to beat. We were pretty calm when we saw the draw, to be honest. We have Ross County on Saturday to focus on, so we're not thinking too much about it. We'll take every game as it comes." That's the mindset we have. It has to be like that. It comes from the manager. He really believes we can beat anyone, and that transfers to the boys. You see it on the pitch. We really believe in ourselves. Report by Alison McConnell. Evening Times Sport, March 16. Ryan Kent makes Rangers levels admission ahead of Europa League clash. Report by Chris Jack. Ryan Kent is confident Rangers can raise their levels in the Europa League once again and hit new heights in the competition by reaching the last 8 this term. The champions head into the second leg of their tie against Red Star Belgrade with a commanding 3-0 lead, thanks to goals from James Tavernier, Alfredo Morelos and Leon Balogun at Ibrox last week. Rangers have come unstuck at this stage in the previous 2 years, as Steven Gerrard's side were beaten by Bayer Leverkusen and Slavia Prague, and saw their impressive runs come to an end. Now they have a chance to surpass those achievements under the guidance of Giovanni van Bronckhorst as they aim to finish the job and move into the quarter-finals for the first time since 2008. Rangers would go all the way to the final in Manchester on that occasion, and Kent is sure the European stage will bring out the best in the light blue squad once again in Serbia. Kent said, "I think the level of opposition goes up, which tends to make the games a lot more open. Both sets of teams want to play football. There is a lack of parking the bus and tripling up or doubling up on players. It gives me more opportunity to do what I do. Each player in the team probably raises their level a little bit more given the opposition in these games. It is a very exciting fixture." I have mentioned before that after each year of participating in this competition, that we have always wanted to improve on the previous year, which we have done so far. That is no different for this year. We want to go as far as we can in this competition. We try to have as much confidence as possible going into every game, and that will be no different going into this and hopefully the next round if we go there with the right mentality for this fixture. Report by Chris Jack. Evening Times Sport, March 16. Ryder Cup captain Henrik Stenson committed to role amid Saudi Super League speculation. Report by Nick Roger. It is nice work if you can get it. Conservative estimates suggest the European Ryder Cup captaincy is worth around £2 million in sponsorships and other lucrative odds and sods for the man at the helm. When you have reportedly been offered £30 million to join a Saudi Super League though. All of those spin-offs look like a handful of coppers you'd find scattered around Steptoe's yard in comparison. Henrik Stenson is Europe's new Ryder Cup skipper for next year's match in Rome, and by taking on the role, he has effectively turned his back on the riches from the bottomless pit of the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund and committed himself to the DP World Tour. It was well known in golfing circles that Stenson needed to provide an ongoing commitment to the circuit before his captaincy could be endorsed. You half expected some elaborate archaic ceremony in which he swore his allegiance over some holy relics, or at least a dog-eared copy of the tour's members' manual. There's been a lot of speculation back and forth, said the Swede, of the Saudi situation, which certainly will not disappear in the months and years to come. I am fully committed to the captaincy and to Ryder Cup Europe and the job at hand. The captain does sign a contract. He's the only one that does that. Players and vice-captains don't. With the elephant in the room brushed aside, Stenson could get on with talking about his new post. As a 5-time Ryder Cup player, with 11 points from 19 matches, and a vice-captain last year, Stenson ticks all manner of boxings. They'll get Henrik, he said simply when asked what he'll bring to the job. Stenson will do it his way, and, as a popular figure with a sense of humour that's as dry as a sawmill, getting Henrik is not a bad thing. As a player, I've been Captain Chaos a few times, chuckled the 2016 Open champion. The 45-year-old will be the first Swede to capture Europe, and there's a fair bit of pressure on his shoulders. After the visitors were on the receiving end of a dreadful thumping by a rampant USA side at Whistling Straits in 2021, Stenson has to find a way of derailing the American Express, and he doesn't want to be the first European captain to lose on home soil in 30 years either. The might of a youthful and hugely talented Team USA was there for all to see last September. Europe, meanwhile, could be set for a changing of the guard, with some seasoned campaigners making way for fresh talent. Whatever the makeup of his team, Stenson wants young and old alike to make a strong claim over the next 18 months. He noted, looking solely at the age at Whistling Straits, I think our team was an average of 35 years, and the American side had about a 26-year-old average. So we certainly had an older team, and at some point there will be a shift, and I can definitely see that happening this time around. But I can also see a few hungry veterans wanting to keep their jerseys. I know from my own experience that when you play in a Ryder Cup, you don't want to hand that jersey to someone else. You are going to fight dearly to keep it another time. And that's exciting for me as a captain. Everything is a possibility. The door is open to anyone with a European passport. The Ryder Cup may be over 560 days away, but the job starts now. And he gushed, the Ryder Cup is golf and sport at its very best. I got goosebumps every time I pulled on a European shirt as a player, and that will be magnified in the role of captain. When I started out as a professional golfer, it was beyond my wildest dreams that one day I would follow in the footsteps of such legends as Seve Ballesteros and be the European Ryder Cup captain. But this proves that sometimes dreams do come true. It wasn't to be, meanwhile, for Luke Donald, Robert Carlson and Aberdonian Paul Lawrie, who were the other names in the hat. At 53, Laurie's chance has passed him by. Like Sandy Lyle before him, another Scottish major champion has missed out. Sometimes the captain's cap just doesn't fit. Report by Nick Rodger. Evening Times Sport, March 16. Van Bronckhorst addresses prospect of action-packed April. Report by Chris Jack. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst hopes the prospect of an all-or-nothing April fixture schedule will inspire Rangers to clinch a Europa League quarter-final berth in Belgrade. The champions hold a commanding position in their last 16 tie with Crvena Zvezda after a 3-0 victory at Ibrox last week, and are just 90 minutes away from their best continental run since reaching the final in Manchester in 2008. That would set up a hugely significant series of matches next month, as Van Bronckhorst's side also prepare for 3 Old Firm fixtures, including a Scottish Cup semi-final, in the space of a few weeks. And the Ibrox boss is relishing that potential fixture scenario as Rangers attempt to finish the job and overcome Red Star to take another step on their Europa League journey. Van Bronckhorst said, "Our main objective is to go through and be in the next round in Europe. That's very important for all of us. Of course, you're going to add 2 more games in April, but that's what you want. You want to be involved in all competitions at the end of the season. We just add some games against, quality-wise, some very strong opponents. That's what you want when you're playing. That's what you want when you are a coach. And I think it's also what you want as a club and fans, to play many games at a top level. So we just have to go out and make sure we are in the next round." Van Bronckhorst will be without injured duo Yanis Hagi and Stephen Davis for the second leg of the tie at the hostile Maracana as Red Star bid to turn the tables on the champions. Rangers have 4 players, Alfredo Morelos, Joe Aribo, John Lundstrom and Fashion Sakala, on 2 bookings ahead of kick-off, but a potential quarter-final suspension will not come into the thinking in Belgrade. Van Bronckhorst said, "Obviously, when you are playing so many games in Europe like we have, you will always have players 1 yellow card away from suspension. That's for every team. But it will not affect our approach in selecting the team, and also the players in the game do not have to play a different way. We just have to go with the strongest 11 possible and do everything to win this tie. That's the most important thing. Then we will see after the game who we have available for the next game." Report by Chris Jack. Evening Times Sport, March 17. Nathan Patterson Everton struggles under Frank Lampard. Report by David Irvin. Nathan Patterson has struggled for game time since his move from Rangers to Everton in January. The 20-year-old fullback has played just once for the Premier League side in an FA Cup clash against Boreham Wood. Scotland international Patterson started the match, but was withdrawn at the break by Frank Lampard. And since he has not featured for the club, with Seamus Coleman and John Joe Kenny preferred by Lampard in Premier League fixtures. Patterson's lack of action has prompted pundit Gabby Agbon-Lahore to question whether there has been a fallout at the club. But Lampard has been vocal in his support for Patterson and insisted he's one for now and one for the future. Speaking to Football Insider, Agbon Lahore said, "Something's happened with Patterson though. A new signing, and normally all players get a new chance with the new manager. Maybe something happened there with Lampard, and he's decided not to have him involved. It is a strange one. There must be something that we don't know. He's a good player, and Coleman has not been the same player recently. Lampard must have his reasons." In his media duties yesterday, Lampard said when questioned on Patterson's futures, "He's one for the now and one for the future. He just has to stay patient, keep working, and I'll find the right time for him to come into the team." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, March 17. Rangers share supporter safety update as fans warned against political messages or flags. Report by David Irvin. Rangers have shared a further supporter safety warning ahead of tonight's clash against Red Star Belgrade. Fans were yesterday urged against travelling alone in Belgrade or wearing football colours ahead of the match. Supporters were also informed of advice to be off the streets by 11 p.m. and to travel to and from the match in supporters' coaches after a UEFA security meeting. And today the club have confirmed additional coaches will be put on for fans between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. from Student Square. Fans have also been strongly discouraged from displaying any political message or flags of Eastern European countries. A statement on social media read, "Supporter update. Belgrade police have confirmed that additional coaches will be available to take independent Rangers supporters from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. from Student Square. All supporters using supporters' coaches must depart Student Square by 4 p.m. Rangers supporters are also reminded that they are strongly discouraged from displaying any political message or flags of any Eastern European countries. Yesterday, Rangers fans' update read, "Following tonight's UEFA security meeting, we can confirm that Serbian police have advised that supporters' coaches can collect fans from Student Square from 4 p.m. Additional coaches will be put on by local authorities to aid independent supporters in heading to the match. After the fixture, there will be a holdback of up to 2 hours, and following this, coaches will be available to take supporters back into the city centre." Additionally, Serbian police advised strongly against Rangers supporters travelling alone or in small groups and recommended against the wearing of colours throughout the city. They also strongly advised that supporters are off the streets by 11 p.m. Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, March 17. Milan Pavkov makes Rangers luck claim as Red Star Belgrade bid for Europa League miracle. Report by Chris Jack. Milan Pavkov hopes Rangers used up all of their luck at Ibrox as Red Star aim to keep their Europa League dreams alive in Belgrade. The Serbian Giants will have to overcome a 3-goal deficit at the Maracana if they are to see off Giovanni van Bronckhorst's side and book a place in the last 8 this term. Red Stars saw 3 goals ruled out at Ibrox last week as James Tavernier, Alfredo Morelos and Leon Balogun found the net for the Light Blues to give them 1 foot in the next round. Boss Dejan Stankovic has not ruled out his side, making a dramatic comeback on home soil, and Pavkov is determined not to give up hope whilst a huge crowd is cheering them on tonight. Pavkov said, "It would be nice if it happened. I will do my best. I don't have to be a hero. If we succeed, we will all be heroes. There is pressure, but sometimes it can help you. This game can take us to heaven. We know we can make history. The chemistry between us is good, and I hope we have more luck. One goal in the first half would be welcome. The same result from Glasgow is not impossible. I hope Rangers used all their luck in Glasgow. We were unlucky there. I hope it will come back to us now. Of course, having the home fans behind us means that there is no condemnation, and it is very important in those situations. I like that we have support, and with the result as it stands, one goal would mean a lot to us. But if the game is repeated, we have to realise the chances we had there, and it can be anything. The most important thing for Red Star overall is for it to be a normal phenomenon to play Europe every year. The club deserves it. Report by Chris Jack. Evening Times Sport, March 17. Van Bronckhorst backs midfielder Ryan Jack to shine for Scotland. Report by Chris Jack. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has backed Ryan Jack to continue his fine club form for his country after earning a recall to Steve Clarke's Scotland squad. The midfielder has been named in Clarke's group for the upcoming fixture schedule and could return to action in dark blue when Poland make the trip to Hampden next month. Scotland will also play Wales or Austria during the break, as Jack, who is set to start against Red Star Belgrade this evening, gets the chance to establish himself at international level once again, following a lengthy period out of action through injury. The 30-year-old was cruelly ruled out of the European Championships last summer, but is now ready to feature for Clarke's side after a series of stunning showings at home and abroad for Rangers in recent weeks. Van Bronckhorst said, "Of course you want your players to be available for games, so it's the same for Ryan. We missed him for a long time this season through injury. You can see in his performances what he brings to the team, which is very positive for me. To have him back in the squad in these last weeks has been good for me, and it's also good for the team because we have a broad selection of players from which we can choose. His performances are going really well, and he has been picked again for Scotland. He will give his best for Scotland as well. His character, his attitude and performances will benefit Scotland, so I am more than happy to have him back in these last weeks." Report by Chris Jack. Evening Times Sport, March 17. St Johnstone manager Davidson hit by COVID. Report by David Irvin. St Johnstone manager Callum Davidson will miss his side's trip to Motherwell this weekend after testing positive for COVID. The club announced the positive result was discovered, but Davison is said to be fine and well as he isolates at home. Coach Stephen McLean will take charge of the team until Davison returns and will be in the dugout at Fir Park. The struggling Perth side sit 11th in the table, just a point ahead of bottom club Dundee. A statement shared on social media read, "The football club can confirm Callum Davison has tested positive for COVID. The manager is fine and well at home and will be back at McDermott Park next week. Stephen McLean will lead the backroom staff from the technical area on Saturday against Motherwell." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, March 17. Celtic vs Rangers in Super Sydney Cup may be in serious doubt. Report by David Irvin. The Sydney Super Cup, involving both Celtic and Rangers, may be in serious doubt, according to reports. It is claimed that unresolved issues with the organiser are ramping up behind the scenes after the plans for the friendly tournament were announced. The lucrative November competition will see Rangers and Celtic head down under to play each other and A-League sides. Rangers are due to play Western Sydney Wanderers, Celtic to face off against Sydney FC before the Glasgow derby. However, now Sky Sports New Zealand broadcaster Jason Pine reports the launch of the event may have been premature. Reporting on Twitter, he wrote, "Hearing football's Sydney Super Cup may be in serious doubt. Unresolved issues with organiser escalating behind the scenes, according to local sources. Launch may have been premature. More to follow." It comes as Celtic announced tickets for the event would go on sale tomorrow, but fans of both Glasgow clubs remain firmly against the friendly tournament. Fans of the rival clubs unveiled banners slamming the proposed event after it was announced. A banner at Celtic Park read, "We're not half of anything. Unless there's money to be made, shove your old firm friendly up your..." While a display at Ibrox targeting Stuart Robertson read, "Safe standing? No. Better disabled facilities? No. Friendly against the animals? Yes. Shame on you." Another Rangers banner held aloft in the trip to St Johnstone read, "Money over morals. No derby friendlies." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, March 18. Athletics. Jenny Selman set to seal surreal rise in Belgrade as she makes Great Britain debut. Report by Susan Egglestaff. Of the 5 Scots picked for Great Britain for this weekend's World Indoor Championships, Jenny Selman's selection was the one few would have predicted at the turn of the year. Selman's compatriots Neil Gourley and Guy Learmonth have been Great Britain internationals for some time, while Erin Wallace and Adam Thomas have established themselves as 2 of the most exciting young talents this country has to offer. Selman, however, fits into neither of these categories. The 30-year-old has never before worn a GB vest as a senior, but after over a decade of striving to reach this point, she has finally made it, and she made it in impressive style. Victory in the 800 metres at the British Indoor Championships 3 weeks ago, holding off Olympic finalist Gemma Ricci, secured her spot for this weekend's event in Serbia's capital of Belgrade, and was a testament to her commitment and determination. Selman admits she felt the possibility of qualifying for this weekend's World Indoors was so incredibly remote she hadn't even read the selection criteria. However, so impressive was her run, she hadn't needed to, with her performance surprising even herself. "It's all been pretty surreal," Selman says of the past few weeks. "Before the British Championships, I knew I was going there in the shape of my life, but anything can happen in a championships, especially in the 800 metres indoors. I knew I'd have to be at my very best to even get close to Gemma because she's such a brilliant athlete. She's run crazy times, so I knew how tough it would be, so to come away with the win, as well as the World Indoors qualification time, was crazy." Selman has had something of a reincarnation this winter, having won Junior Scotland and Great Britain vests, as well as a smattering of senior Scottish vests over the years. Selman spent much of her 20s in the athletics wilderness. She admits herself She spent a number of years drifting, running by her standards anyway, very slowly. However, the 5AC runner has been a revelation in 2022. A personal best at the DNA meet in Glasgow last month was an early indication of the new improved Selman, with her British Championships victory confirmation that she is in the shape of her life. And while physically Selman is better than ever, it is her mentality that has, she believes, made the most significant difference. She says, "My mindset is a lot different this winter to anything I've felt before. I've been feeling a lot more positive and much more ambitious going into races, and that's really helped. There were times before I was going in not expecting much from myself, and when you feel like that, it's pretty unlikely you'll do anything. I have never been in races of this quality before, but you need to go in being prepared to hold your ground, because you can get bashed around quite a bit. You do need to get your elbows out and not let yourself get pushed around. I expect the Worlds to be like that, so it's good to be more prepared for it." With Selman's Great Britain teammate, Olympic medalist and current darling of the British athletics scene, Keely Hodgkinson, also running the 800 metres, the spotlight is likely to be on the Englishwoman. But as Selman knows all too well, the 800 metres indoors is ripe for an upset. She says, "I'm so happy and excited to be in the team, and I can't wait to be in there with some of the best girls in the world. This meet is something I've always watched on television, so to now be a part of it is pretty amazing." Qualification from the heats, as it always is in the 800 metres, will be really tough. There will be some brilliant athletes who'll miss out on making the final, and people say that often it's harder to make the final than it is to medal in the 800 metres indoors. I'm going to give my best to make the final, and then anything can happen. I wouldn't have thought I'd even be at the Worlds, so I have to just go for it and believe in myself. The impressive few months Selman has had bodes well for the summer, which will see the Commonwealth Games take place in July. With only 23 spots in the Scottish athletics team for Birmingham 2022, competition will be fierce, but with Selman having already bagged the qualification time, she has put herself in a strong position. That she must battle the likes of Riki, Laura Muir, and potentially Lindsay Sharp for an 800 metres spot highlights the mountain she must climb to grab a place in Team Scotland. But, for now at least, she is in the best position she could possibly be in as the indoor season comes to a close. She says, "Getting the time does take a bit of a weight off my shoulders, but it still doesn't guarantee anything. Now I've got the time, I know I can run it again. If I want to run a PB, that'll be another qualifying time. So if I try to do that, the qualifying time will look after itself." Over the next 3 days in Belgrade, there is certain to be a number of medal opportunities for Great Britain, with Hodgkinson, Elliot Giles, Katarina Johnson-Thompson, Andrew Potsy, and Lorraine Eugen all likely to be in the hunt for silverware. Report by Susan Egglestaff. Evening Times Sport, March 18. Callum McGregor pays tribute to Billy McNeill as he backs honorary event. Report by Caroline Wilson. Footballers from Celtic's past and present paid tribute yesterday to Lisbon Lions legend Billy McNeill as they backed a new charity event named in his honour. Team captain Callum McGregor joined former striker Frank McAvenny for the launch of a celebrity golf tournament that will raise funds for respite for former footballers affected by dementia and their families. McNeil died in April 2019 at the age of 79 after being diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease around 9 years earlier. The Billy McNeil Fund was launched that year in tribute to the former captain, who was the first British footballer to lift the European Cup, but the inaugural fundraising event in 2020 did not take place due to the pandemic. It will now be held on Friday, June 3, at the Carrick Golf Course near Cameron House beside Loch Lomond. The 5-star complex is nearing the end of a multi-million-pound renovation. Amateur golfers will have the chance to tee off with celebrities and Scottish footballers. The star names taking part will be confirmed in the coming weeks. A question and answer event will also be held in the evening. Celtic skipper McGregor said, "I don't have anyone in the family who has suffered from dementia, but with Billy being such an iconic figure for the club, I felt it was important to back it and show our support as a club. After everything Billy did for us, this is just a small token of our gratitude." The new fund is part of the charity Battle Against Dementia, which was launched by Douglas McCluskey after his father's death from dementia. McAvenny, who is a long-time ambassador for the charity, said, "This came up 2 years ago, and myself and Walter Smith, the former Rangers manager, did the launch at Celtic Park, and the golf event didn't happen because of the pandemic, and it's such an important thing. I used to go and visit Billy, the gaffer, once a month or every couple of months, with former Celtic striker Andy Walker. Billy had such great stature, and every month we saw him, he was declining. This shouldn't be happening in 2022. Hopefully there will soon be a tablet that could at least delay it." Mr. McCluskey added, "We are going to provide respite for former footballers and their families. It just means that once a week we can give families the time they need, because it's exhausting looking after dementia sufferers. All the funds we raise will go to that, and we are hoping every single football club in Scotland gets involved, because the money is going to stay in Scotland." The McNeil family revealed 2 years before Billy's death that he had Alzheimer's disease. His son Martin said, "Having seen firsthand the devastating effect dementia has on a loved one, I am delighted this event is taking place. Raising funds to help ex-footballers and their families is tremendous, and to have it in Billy's name makes the whole family proud." Dementia also claimed the lives of Celtic's legends teammates Stevie Chalmers and Bertie Auld, amid growing concern over the links between football and dementia. A landmark study by the University of Glasgow, published in 2019, found footballers were 3.5 times more likely to die of the disease, and the risk of Alzheimer's disease was higher. Further research by consultant neuropathologist Dr. Willie Stewart found the overall risk was greatest for those who played in positions with a high level of head impacts. He said football's governing bodies should now consider eliminating headers, and suggested the sport should also carry a health warning, while others have called for dementia to be classed as an occupational disease. The SFA responded to the research by banning children under 12 from heading footballs during training sessions. A graduated approach will be introduced for children aged between 12 and 17, with limits on the amount of heading allowed. McAvenny said he agreed with this approach, but said he does not believe heading should be removed from the professional game. He said, "I get it, but you can't do it in the game. It's impossible. The game is not football anymore. You don't head the ball much these days anyway. It's all in the feet." Report by Caroline Wilson. Evening Times Sport, March 18. Rangers blast vile Goldson racist abuse. Report by Ewan Payton. Rangers have hit out at the vile racist abuse aimed at Connor Goldson in the wake of their triumph over Red Star Belgrade in the Europa League. It has sadly emerged that light blue star Goldson was subjected to racist abuse on his Instagram account in the aftermath of the match. On the Englishman's most recent post, which was on July 6 last year, a comment from one user referred to him as a black S and a monkey. A series of monkey emojis followed the vile comment, and Rangers have blasted the sick, discriminatory behaviour. A club statement reads, "Rangers strongly condemns the sickening racist abuse of our players. Once again, this raises serious questions for social media companies who allow racism and other abuse to continue with responsibility or accountability." Goldson was involved in a rammy at the end of the match, as Red Stars keeper Milan Borjan took exception to his celebrations close to a section of home fans inside the Maracana Stadium. The stopper was booked by the referee during the full-time scenes, as the Rangers players rightly celebrated in front of their travelling supporters once the situation had cooled. Rangers celebrated a famous night in the club's history as they progressed to the quarter-finals of the Europa League, winning 4-2 on aggregate. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, March 18. Rangers draw Braga in Europa League quarter-finals. Report by Ewan Payton. Rangers have discovered their potential route to the Europa League final. The Ibrox side have been drawn against Braga in the quarter-finals of the competition. The first leg will take place in Portugal on April 7, with the second giving Rangers home advantage at Ibrox on April 14. And should Giovanni van Bronckhorst's men get through that tie, they will meet the winner of RB Leipzig versus Atalanta in the semis of the tournament. The Germans or Italians will be at home for the first leg of that match, with the winners of Braga versus Rangers at home in the return leg. The draw for the next knockout rounds of the UEFA competition took place at 12:30 in Nyon, Switzerland today. It was the first open draw of the competition, meaning there were no restrictions on teams being paired together. Rangers have already defeated Borussia Dortmund and Red Star Belgrade to get to this stage. So while the task ahead will undoubtedly be a tough one, there is no reason why Rangers cannot dream of going all the way to Seville. Rangers' potential opponents in the last 8 were Barcelona, Atalanta, Braga, Eintracht Frankfurt, Lyon, West Ham and RB Leipzig. Rangers' quarter-final draw is a repeat of their 2020 Europa League last 16 tie against Braga under Steven Gerrard, which they won. The draw in full: Leipzig versus Atalanta, Eintracht Frankfurt versus Barcelona, West Ham versus Lyon, and Braga versus Rangers. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, March 18. Rangers help tighten Scotland's grip on top 10 coefficient spot. Report by Ewan Payton. Rangers' progression to the quarter-finals of the Europa League has helped tighten Scotland's grip on an all-important top 10 spot in the UEFA coefficient rankings. The Scottish champions are the only representative from the country left in European competition this season. They saw off Red Star Belgrade last night to secure a place in the last 8 of the Europa League. They did, however, lose 2-1 on the night in the Serbian capital. Scotland sit 9th in UEFA's coefficient table on 35,500 points. The Ibrox side earned the nation an additional 0.2 points for getting through to the next knockout round. Serbia ironically sit in 11th place on 33,375 points. Red Stars' win at the Maracana earned them 0.5 points. However, the Serbs cannot gain any further ground on Scotland this season, with both Red Star and Partizan Belgrade now out of the Europa League and Conference League respectively. This, therefore, ends their hopes of overtaking Scotland in the rankings this season, and so next season's Scottish champions, as well as the winners of the current campaign, look certain to earn a place in the Champions League group stages. This is, of course, a huge boost to both Rangers and Celtic. Russia sit right behind Scotland in 10th position on 34,482 points. They are, of course, unable to add to that tally, with sanctions imposed on the country by UEFA, meaning Spartak Moscow were dumped out as RB Leipzig gained a bye. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Time Sport, March 18. Chris Sutton praises Rangers for Europa League win. Report by Ewan Payton. Celtic hero Chris Sutton praised Rangers for their Europa League triumph over Red Star Belgrade last night. The Ibrox side lost 2-1 on the night in the Serbian capital, but it mattered little as Giovanni van Bronckhorst's men progressed to the quarter-finals 4-2 on aggregate. They will now be involved in the draw for the last 8 today, with the semi-final draw also made at the same time. And while plenty of Rangers-minded pundits such as Ali McCoist, Chris Boyd and Alan Hutton have been fulsome in their praise of their old team, Sutton put rivalry aside to congratulate the Light Blues. He tweeted, "Alan McGregor brilliant once again tonight. Well done to Rangers. Good night for Scottish football." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Time Sport, March 21. Former referee delivers verdict on red card decision against Ross County. Report by David Irvin. Former referee Des Roach reckons Celtic were denied a clear penalty in their 4-0 rout over Ross County, but insists the visitors should not have been down to 10 men. Ange Postecoglou's side put County to the sword with a dominant performance at Parkhead, as Georgios Giacomakis bagged his second hat-trick in 3 league games. Dazen Maeda netted the only other goal, as Celtic continued their domestic unbeaten run and held their 3-point gap at the top of the table. And while the result was unlikely to be in doubt, with Celtic 3 goals to the good after 26 minutes, Kane Ramsey's straight red card killed any hope of a comeback with less than half an hour played. The Southampton loanee threw himself into a tackle on Tom Rogic, smashing into the ball before crunching into the Australian international. But reckons it was harsh, as he explained his opinion that there wasn't even a foul. He told the Get Involved Referee podcast, "It wasn't a foul. He has won the ball. You cannot tell a player how hard he can challenge for a ball. Don't get me wrong. He's taken everything, but for me he has won the ball and remained in control of his challenge. I don't think that's a red card. Injuries are part of a contact sport. Are we going to take it back to playground rules where you can't hurt your mate? I don't think Ramsey has gone to hurt anyone. He has gone to win the ball fairly within the laws of the game." I am going to reference a famous tackle from a few seasons ago when Jozo Simunovic cleaned out Kenny Miller, probably even more so than Rogic. That was an absolutely fantastic tackle. You can tackle with as much gusto as you like, so long as you get the ball. I don't even see it as a foul, far less a red card. And it wasn't the only decision of Don Robertson's to go under the microscope, with Roach also claiming Celtic should have had a penalty in the first half. Robertson waved play on when Jota's cross from the left appeared to strike Joseph Hungbo on the arm, but Roach reckons it was a clear penalty, as he insisted VAR would have overturned the on-field decision if it was in use. He added, "It was a clear penalty, there was no dubiety. The only thing I can say in Don's defence is that it looks like there were a couple of players crossing his line of sight. But I'm not sure about that. It was certainly a definite penalty, and I think he missed that one. It would have been an easy VAR decision." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, March 21. Celtic forward Maeda withdraws from Japan squad. Report by James Kearney. Celtic forward Daisen Maeda has withdrawn from Japan's squad for the Asian nation's upcoming World Cup qualifiers later this month. Maeda and Parkhead teammate Reo Hatate had both been included in the team for fixtures with Australia and Vietnam, but the 24-year-old has decided to stay in Glasgow for the international break. Japan Times reporter Dan Orlovitz revealed on Twitter this morning that Maeda, who played the full 90 minutes in Celtic's 4-0 win over Ross County on Saturday, has had to pull out of the squad due to fitness issues. He wrote, "Just in, the Japanese FA announces that Maeda has withdrawn from the squad for fitness condition reasons. No replacement planned." Maeda featured for Japan during the previous international break, coming off the bench for the last 20 minutes or so in matches with China and Saudi Arabia. Report by James Kearney. Evening Times Sport, March 21. Rugby. 5 things we learned from the Six Nations. France lived up to pre-tournament expectations by sweeping all before them in the Guinness Six Nations, with Ireland followed closely behind. The PA news agency examines 5 things we learned from the competition. Worthy winners. France's first title since 2010, secured by clinching the Grand Slam, was met with a wave of emotion at the Stade de France, but the joy should also reverberate across the game. For so long a faded power, Saturday's jittery victory over England completed a transformation that restores one of the sport's most admired rugby nations to the pinnacle. Directed by their outstanding halfbacks Antoine Dupont and Romain Ntamak, they will enter next year's home World Cup from a position of strength. England's limitations laid bare. While France prosper, England are flailing. Their performance in Paris typified what they have become. Spirited and resilient, but lacking in any real potency. All of their resolve was on display in a heartening second half, but as an attacking force, they ignite only sporadically. France and Ireland are light years ahead in this department, and the lack of sustained cutting edge is a real area of concern for Eddie Jones, whose side has gone backwards since a successful autumn. There is much to admire England's determination, but it will not win them a World Cup. Stand by your man. What to do with Jones? That was the question facing the Rugby Football Union, but Chief Executive Bill Sweeney has moved quickly by giving him unconditional backing. It is an extraordinary show of faith in light of England's recent Six Nations results, with 3 defeats registered in 3 of the last 5 tournaments. Strip Italy out of the equation, and only 8 of the last 20 games have been won. Jones' defence is that his team rebuilding project needs time to come to fruition, and Sweeney has given him the green light to continue before the customary post-Six Nations review has even begun. Calls for his removal have increased in volume, but the RFU has made its position loud and clear. It is content to continue riding the Jones roller coaster. Italy detonate on the final day. A 3-tier hierarchy has emerged in Northern Hemisphere rugby, led by France and Ireland. England, Wales and Scotland form the chasing pack, and behind are positioned Italy. Outside of the top 2, it has been a low-quality tournament. Wales' fall from champions to 5th place could signal the beginning of a difficult phase across the Severn Bridge, and few would envy the position Wayne Pivac finds himself in. And to rub salt into Welsh wounds, it was they who brought it to a close, Italy's 36-test losing run in the Six Nations. The Azzurri were immense, as they prevailed 22-21 in Cardiff, with electric fullback Ange Capuozzo producing the moment of the tournament with the exhilarating run that set up the match-winning converted try. All of Europe will be willing them to build on a breakthrough moment. Murrayfield Blues. Possibly the most unexpected aspect of the Six Nations has been the total collapse of Scotland, whose pre-tournament confidence was enhanced by an opening day victory over England, before they unravelled in spectacular fashion. Apart from a hollow win against Italy, they failed to make any further impact as they became engulfed by a disciplinary storm in the final week. For a group of senior players, including Captain Stuart Hogg and fly-half Finn Russell, to go out drinking in defiance of team rules is a lamentable lapse in judgment that hints at an unhappy camp. So much for it being Scotland's year, again. Evening Times Sport, March 21. Taverny details key Rangers trait that inspired comeback victory. Report by Chris Jack. James Taverny hailed Rangers' character as they came from behind to keep their Premiership title defence on track against Dundee. The champions required second-half goals from Aaron Ramsey and Connor Goldson to cancel out a Christie Elliott opener and earn all 3 points at Dens Park. Rangers were far from their best as they produced a lethargic performance and looked to be in trouble when Taverny scooped a penalty over the bar late in the first half. But Van Bronckhorst's side would dig deep to clinch a huge victory on the back of their Europa League exploits against Red Star Belgrade. Tabarne said, "I thought we showed great character during the game. Obviously, we did not get to the levels in the first half. We had a couple of chances, with my penalty being one of them. We knew in the second half we would need to put in a really good performance. The boys were terrific in terms of their energy levels on the back of a tough night on Thursday. We had boys coming off the bench helping us out, and we scored 2 really good goals to come away with 3 points. We were more patient on the ball in the second half. We got into better positions than we did in the first half. The substitutes came on and made a real impact on the game, even towards the end. But that's why we have a great squad. I am just glad we came away with the 3 points. I obviously tried to better my penalty here last week and go top corner. I probably leaned back on it too much, but you are always going to miss some. I always focus on putting it in the back of the net, keeping my head down and carrying on with the game. The boys dug me out and I was delighted." Report by Chris Jack.
And that was this week's Glasgow Times Sport podcast, normally recorded in our studio at the Bishopbriggs Media Centre, currently recorded from our volunteers' homes with the publisher's kind permission. Thanks for listening.